I never thought in terms of becoming a writer. I think I was 9 years old. When we were young, we were three brothers. Our parents read a lot, they loved books. So we went maybe twice a week to the library. And I think when I was about 9 years old, I had just finished a really wonderful book. And it was the first time that I realized, but I want to make stories one day. I also want to create wonderful stories that other people could enjoy. So from a very young age, I had this urge to tell stories. It's such a wonderful experience to read a book. I would love to give other people that same experience. And to me, it's different than being a writer. I think writers are very serious, very clever people who write very high literature and win big prizes. I just want to be a storyteller. I want to try and tell the stories that I like to read. I was always writing. From a young age, I was writing little stories, very naive, very childish stories, very bad stories and bad writing. But you have to start somewhere. So I would write little stories about fighter pilot heroes and soldier heroes, guys who just had no weaknesses, that sort of thing. It was the daydreams of a young boy. And then when I was in my 20s, I think I was about 25, I tried to write my first book. And I did about 50 pages. And then I realized that it was very bad. And my only conclusion was that I had not had enough of life yet. I have not had enough life experience. I don't have enough insight in my own humanity. I don't understand people. And I thought, okay, I will stop writing and then wait. And maybe if I'm 10 years later, if I have more understanding of humanity, then I can try again. I started writing short stories first because I was very aware of the fact that writing is a craft that you need to learn. Like a child learns to walk or to ride a bicycle, I had to learn the craft of writing. So I started with short stories. I started publishing short stories in South Africa, and it took me about 2-3 years of writing short stories, and then I attempted my first novel. And it was never a question of I want to write policières or thrillers. I never thought in those terms. I wrote stories, and I did not care about the genre. It was only when the publisher said, oh, this is a crime novel, that I thought, oh, okay, maybe it is. And I still don't think in terms of genre. I think most of my books are different in terms of the subgenre that they fall in. I've written books that are typical policières. I've written books that have been more thrillers or perhaps a mix of the two. So I don't worry too much about genre. To me, the story is the most important thing. To me, entertainment for the reader is the most important thing. I have no intention of putting in any social or political commentary in my books. My only aim and my only wish, my only desire when writing the story is to try and give the reader a story that is enjoyable and that the reader will keep on reading until the finish. So for me, it's always interesting. You create these characters and you let them loose within a very specific setting. In this case, let's say the South Africa and Cape Town. Then it's only natural that they interact in that environment, and they, as a character with a specific language and cultural background, they will see the world through that perspective. To me, that's one of the wonderful things of being a writer, is that I get to see the world, my world, South Africa, through the eyes of different characters. I have a Xhosa or a Zulu or a man of mixed race or a white Afrikaner, and they all look at the same events, the same socio-political background, and they all see it a little bit different. That enriches my own perspective. If the reader finds interesting perspectives on South Africa in the book and commentary, then I'm very happy. But it's not my intention to put it there. I believe that we are all damaged in one way or another, and I try to create my characters as honestly and as realistically as possible. That's the one side of it. The other side of it is that conflict is the mother of suspense. If you want to have suspense in a book, you have to have conflict, and conflict has many levels. But to me, it starts with internal conflict. If the character has internal conflicts with himself, something that he's wrestling with in himself, then that already adds to the suspense of the novel, because the reader realizes that the challenge lying ahead for this character is very big, and I don't even know if he can survive it. Is he or she strong enough to do this? So in that sense, it also adds to the suspense, it adds to the intrigue, and hopefully it adds to the readability. Lemmer is a man who he has to cope. He grew up in a very violent house. His father was very violent. He was abused as a child, and he tries to cope with life by making all these laws. He has laws for everything, and that helps him to avoid this dark side inside of him. So each character I try to have a different way of coping with the reality and coping with their past.